When it comes to books that are adapted to film, I have a theory. Because the book is almost always better than the movie, even if the movie is good, it's better to watch the film first and read the book after. Follow me here. Nothing can ruin a film faster than spotting the differences between the two. All the alterations, the additions, the cuts, the missing scenes or characters, it can be excruciatingly aggravating. However, if you're able to see the film first, and it's good, then your experience reading the book later can only be enhanced, which improves the book even more. With that said, having not read the book myself, I was able to watch Ready Player One without any prior knowledge or expectations, allowing me to arrive to the following conclusion. Totally worth it. To be fair, I was a bit skeptical going into the film. As much as I love Steven Spielberg, I haven't enjoyed a classic Spielberg adventure since Catch Me If You Can, and I haven't forgotten what he did to Indiana Jones. His most recent films have been historical dramas, and the ones that weren't were meh. And I have a long-standing preference for practical effects versus CGI, and lately he's been putting much of his attention on the CGI. So you can understand why I'd be skeptical. A CGI-laden film more or less about video games by the director who did this to Indiana Jones? I'm skeptical. But if there's one thing that's more satisfying than your expectations being met, it's when they're completely subverted. Spielberg is back in form with Ready Player One, showcasing the motifs and style that we've come to recognize from his 44 years of filmmaking. And while the film depends almost entirely upon CGI, because of the subject matter, that turns out to be totally fine. The majority of the film takes place within a virtual world, so of course it's going to have that CGI look. Typically that amount of CG is implemented to create a world that the film would have you believe is possible or real, but it never comes off that way. In Ready Player One, we come to expect visuals of that caliber because it's supposed to imitate a video game. It's more important that you can tell the computer and the real worlds apart, and the CGI helps with that. One of my concerns for the film, which manifested due to the film's trailers and advertising, was that it would be nothing but a compilation of cameos, pop culture references, and fan service. And if you thought the same thing, you won't be disappointed. It's like the Lego Movie meets the Imagination episode from South Park, essentially. What I enjoyed best about these appearances was that it gave Spielberg a chance to pay respects to those directors in films from the 80s, like Robert Zemeckis, James Cameron, and Stanley Kubrick. And while these references were much appreciated, I can't help but find it odd that a movie that takes place in 2045, there would be so many characters that hold affection for a decade that occurred 40 years before they were born. Especially one film from that period, Buckaroo Banzai, which, despite what Ready Player One would have you believe, is an awful, terrible film. I hate it. I should probably point out that the film's greatest weakness is its character development. It's brief. I'll elaborate. We don't really get to know the film's supporting characters. For that matter, the main characters are at large a mystery themselves. But the film really does make an effort in establishing the creator of the virtual world, James Halliday. Nearly every character spends a majority of the film's runtime attempting to unravel Halliday's mind, to the point that the audience can't help but connect with and understand the man behind it all. I wish that much could be said about everyone else. Parzival is an incorruptible and naive force of good, the antagonist, Sorrento, is the definition of generic, and everyone else is simply two-dimensional. Which is funny, because video games. But like a video game, the most important thing about Ready Player One is that it's fun. It's definitely not a perfect film, but it was vastly entertaining to watch a film about finding a game's Easter eggs that itself is loaded with Easter eggs. As a gamer, I loved the film's premise and how it grasps the mentality of gaming culture and logic. And like Wreck-It Ralph or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Ready Player One may be proof that, while a movie based on a video game may be a terrible idea, a movie about video games is the way to go. Ready Player One, YouGotCrit. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more videos and reviews like that. If you have any suggestions for reviews you want to see, feel free to comment below. You can also follow me at yougotcrit.tumblr.com if you want to see some older reviews and some cartoons of my own design. And thanks again.